There it is. I'm live. Ice cream Tuesday for me in the South, 103 today. Wow, son of a bitch. Tex-Mex is the best. You are correct, sir. For me, it's a toss-up. It's a tie between Mexican food, Italian, Thai, Ethiopian food, which if you haven't had Ethiopian food, these motherfuckers know how to eat. You get this funky sponge bread that's real thin, like a pancake. Nope. Like a crepe. And you take it and you put it in your hand like this and you scoop stuff up in the palm of your hand. All these different types of stew and meats that have been cooked to the point where they're just falling apart. And I don't know what kind of meats they are. I mean, goat, German Shepherd, I don't know. But whatever it is, it's delicious. Let's see. Invesco Limited. It's a commodities pool. I'm going to have to do some more checking in the UUP. Long US dollar, short G10 basket. Casual chat about different types of food, tacos, and Ethiopian stew. Yes, that's true. Have a cow. Neighbors, absolutely. Red Devil Pizza is the best. Yeah, I'm still going to have to get over there. Oh, you know what? Hi, Monica. Let me turn my face around. Boom. That's better. Well, I mean, it's not better. It's still my face, but it's different. That's true. I do try. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, by the way, there's something that I want you to get on the TikTok shop. There's a reason that I'm bringing this up right now, and that's because I realized today I was this many years old when I found out that we almost lost the entire Eastern interchange grid today. Ta-da! Let's see. Data center. Oh, shit. Center surge in oh yeah, the Islamic Republic of Japan. That will never happen. The Japanese are feeling the fatigue and they're saying nope, get out. Yeah, let's see. A recent power disturbance across the eastern United States was linked to Northern Virginia's data center alley, where a transmission line fault, just a little flicker, nothing major, didn't blow anything, didn't really actually lose power, but it caused lights to flicker from Washington, D.C. all the way to Chicago. Really? Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the data centers have backup generators. Now, these backup generators, they are something else, man. Let's see. The cause, a downed or failed high voltage transmission line in Northern Virginia prompted a massive simultaneous load shift as data centers momentarily adjusted or toggled to backup generation, which immediately overloaded the system. And why would it overload the system? Because the system was running at full capacity, pumping electricity into these incredibly thirsty power users. And all of a sudden, they went, oh shit, there's no more electricity. Yeah, there is. That was just a little bit of a glitch, but there's still power coming in. And they said, oh shit, there's no power coming in. Stop. And all that power that was going in went back out, like throwing a rock into a pond. And those ripples went out. And that overloaded the entire fucking system all the way past Chicago, all the way down to Atlanta, Georgia. All of the entire power grid of the eastern United States went way into the red zone. Now, it was only for a few minutes until it all came back and adjusted. But everybody agrees that, oh, fuck, that almost blew out the entire grid over one single transmission line. One single transmission line. Folks, I'm not fucking kidding. When I talk to you guys about how to survive what is absolutely going to fucking happen, look, I'm just going to read to you from the first paragraph of my book. After looking into which type of global cataclysms were unlikely, like alien invasion, zombies, earthquakes, they're localized events, and which were imminent and inevitable, solar flare, or cyber attack, I decided I'd help educate people on how to survive. All you have to do is go right up there to my channel and click the link, and believe me, there are a lot of books on how to survive out there. Look at the TikTok shop. They've got tons of them. And they say things like, hey, man, a Navy SEAL wrote this. A Delta Force guy wrote this. Well, if you're in the same shape and you have the same combat experience as a SEAL Team 6 DevGru guy or a Delta Force operator, then God bless you. Buy their book. If, however, you are a little soft around the middle and you haven't been in the Marine Corps or the Army or anything else for a while, and you still don't want to die a pathetic death as soon as the electricity goes off, you might want to get my book. So here's the deal. TikTok shop is where it's going to be. It'll be on the TikTok shop as soon as I can figure out how the fuck to do that. In the interim, right there. Or you can call or text me right there. So this was today. Now, let me explain why this is an issue. Wait. I will let Google explain. Growing strain. Experts note that the region, home of the world's highest concentration of data centers, is driving historic electricity demand growth. Now, on top of that, well, that's, martial law is your best case scenario. That really is. In a situation where the entire grid goes down, I'll give you an example. Let's say that somebody decides that they want to get rid of the United States. Okay, they want to do it in such a way, though, that they don't start World War III, because World War III is bad for everybody. It's a world war, as the name would suggest. So let's say that you don't want a world war. Let's say that you just want to take out the one country that's pissing you off. What you would do is you would launch a cyber attack. Many, many different countries have really advanced cyber operations. Obviously, China is the most advanced, but North Korea is extremely advanced. Iran has a shockingly advanced cyber attack system. I mean, their guys are really good. There's also Russia. There's Ukraine. There's Israel. There's a lot of places. Now, if you wanted to knock out the entire grid of the United States, it's actually really simple. First, you start with a cyber attack and you knock out Cyber Command. You knock out our Cyber Command. You knock out all of our computers. You knock down the radar. Right now, we only have radar that points north, east, and west. We really don't have much in the way of radar pointing south because there are no threats to the south of us. So the Gulf region is actually pretty open. So what you would do is you would knock out all of the radars nationwide, kind of like, I don't know, a 9/11 type of thing, where nobody's sure what's going on. Is this real? Is this a test? What's going on here? Then you would launch a nuke, a missile, straight up over, say, probably Kansas would be the best place. And right over the center of Kansas, you'd light off a small nuke. Doesn't have to be a big one. It could be something that any country that's got nukes, like Pakistan, where 30% of the marriages are between cousins. That's not a joke. I'm not saying that to be funny, and I'm not saying that to be racist or anything else. I'm just saying that that is the actual statistic that I learned. And I wasn't studying Pakistan when I learned it. I was studying something about birth defects. And I found that the reason that some of the birth defects come out the strongest in Pakistan is because they have so much inbreeding. And I was shocked. I had no idea. I figured, shit, there's like tens of millions of people there. How could they all be related? Well, they all started as related. And they marry cousins a lot. It's a thing. It's not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal genetically. Somalia, same issue. Yep. When you only marry people that are in your caste in India or in your religion in some other country, or you have a small country that is fairly isolated, like Somalia was for a long time, then you basically end up having somebody in your family. Now, I get it. Dick Cheney and Barack Obama were sixth cousins. Now, that's an odd thing to find out. And I often wondered how that was, but I didn't give a shit enough to actually check. But it was a big thing for a little while. The press talked about it. Everybody laughed about it. Like, talk about different ends of the spectrum. Not really. But you take a place like Pakistan. Do they have a weapon? Yeah, lots of nukes. Could they sell those nukes to, I don't know, some other country? Easily. Okay. Does Iran have a nuclear weapon? Well, I heard from somebody who was very, very, very well connected many years ago, over a decade ago, that Saudi Arabia and Iran both had nuclear warheads. They didn't have efficient delivery systems for them, but they had a nuke. And the reason that each one had a nuke was so that the other wouldn't do anything stupid, because for many years, they were the two rivals in the area. Of course, now both of them have to keep their eye on Israel, who has hundreds of nukes, at least 150 that we're aware of, probably quite a bit more than that. So, it's your first time here. Well, hi there. So, the reason that this is important is because if you launched a nuke directly over Kansas and you lit it off at 100,000 feet of altitude, 150,000 feet of altitude, most people wouldn't notice it. They wouldn't notice that the sun got a little brighter for a second because they'd be indoors or doing their thing, whatever. But within a couple seconds, that first wave of energy would hit everything. That's right, an electromagnetic pulse. Now, an EMP has three waves. The first wave would hit instantly, and it would short out all electronics, just little microprocessors and whatnot. The second wave would hit almost immediately, and that would be basically the same as lightning. It would be like an electrical surge that is a lot like lightning. And of course, everything's sort of been programmed to survive lightning. The third wave, however, is the one that is the most interesting. because it is conducted by long lines. So all of those transmission lines that run all across the United States, they would all begin to work as antennas, and they would soak up that electricity, and they would keep soaking it up, and it would continue down those lines as fast as it could go. However, anybody who knows anything about electricity knows that if you run a little electricity through a wire, you get a little bit of resistance. It's just normal. If you run a lot of electricity through that same wire, you start to get a lot of resistance. And that resistance turns into heat. And if you keep pumping more and more and more electricity into that little tiny wire, it will melt. Now, obviously 750 kilovolt lines that run on those huge steel stanchions that are 150 feet tall, those are not tiny. However, if you put enough electricity into them, they will heat up to the point where one of two things happens. Either they melt, best case scenario, or they transmit all of that electricity all the way down to where they get to a substation. And once they get to a substation, they hit a transformer. And if that transformer is one of those 800,000 pound transformers that are back ordered for several years and only made in two countries right now, South Korea and Germany, if it gets to one of those, now some electrical engineers will tell you, well, you got a breaker. Right. And if you've ever seen what electricity does when it meets a little bit of a gap, if there's a lot of it, it jumps the gap. And that's exactly what will happen here. And by the way, everybody in it that works for any power company knows this. They all know this. But what's the point in talking about it? If you're not going to fix it, why scare the shit out of people? Why make people angry at your company, at Pacific Gas and Electric, or the Salt River Project, or Arizona Power Service? Why piss them off? Because you've admitted that you've got a system that is easily defeated and destroyed when there's nothing you can do about it. You just don't talk about it. So that's where we're at now. By the way, this is where we're at now with just the data centers in Loudon, Virginia. And this damn near took down the entire eastern portion of the United States. And this was, let's see. They reported on it this morning, but it was actually 4 days ago. It was actually 4 days ago that this happened, and we're finding out all about it now. It was 8 a.m. last Wednesday, and it just made the lights flicker for a second. If we lost power throughout the United States, if we had these transformers that were destroyed, some estimates from the government say as little as a year, but most government studies have shown that it would take several years to restore the entire grid, or at least the critical parts of it for, say, hospitals and whatnot. Because you have to understand, if we lose the power grid, and here I'll tell you exactly who said this, because this is one of them that I keep here. This is the report of the commission to assess the threat to the United States from electromagnetic pulse attack, EMP attack, to critical national infrastructures. This was done by a group of physicists, people that were in the Air Force, people that were in different electrical engineering positions. The Democrat Fed wrecked our grid, and Really? Is that what we're going to do? Okay, it's all the Democrats' fault. No, not last night. Last night, I did an hour and called it a night. By the way, if you're just going to jump on here and blame the Democrats or the Republicans, nobody in power for the last 40 years. 40. That's 1986, right? So wouldn't that be Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, then Trump, and then Biden, and then Trump? Okay, so it's a whole bunch of shit right there. Exactly, it's a uniparty. So nobody's done shit about this. And by the way, these reports go all the way back to basically the year 2000. And I've got reports from 2000 all the way up through the most recent one, probably 2012, when they realized that the more of this shit they print, the worse it's going to look later when they don't do anything. So they don't print this anymore. But the last one, the one that was done by the Pentagon, showed between 90 and 93% mortality in the United States. Now, mortality does not mean that you're going to feel shitty. It doesn't mean you're going to get sick. Mortality is death. '45 through 47. Yeah. Anyway, so that means that out of the 340 million people in the United States, about 30 million of them would survive. So when was the last time the United States had 30 million people? '1860, which is ironic because in 1860 there were 31 million people. And if that happens, if the grid goes down, we will be back in 1860 again. Quite literally, because they didn't have electricity in 1860. They had the beginnings of the telegraph. Of course, they had just had to rebuild it because in 1859, the Carrington event burnt the telegraph wires to the ground. All of the telegraph wires in the United States and in Europe. See, this doesn't affect just one side if it's a solar event. If it's an EMP, it affects just us. Perhaps some of Mexico as well. But I get the impression that Mexico would fare a lot better than the United States, since a lot of those people still live in abject poverty and they do things like fish out of the ocean and wash their clothes in a creek. Doesn't really affect them at all. Anybody who's growing their own food doesn't really notice this. No, it's getting to the point now where a lot of people are starting to hope that this happens. And that is the crazy part about this, is that I deal with a lot of people who they're embarrassed, they're ashamed that they want something this dramatic to happen, but they're just sick of living in a completely fake world. Well, here's the problem. When you say upgrade it, what's that mean? What does that mean? Upgrade. You know? Upgrade how? Bury it underground? Anytime any of those pieces pop up above ground to go into, say, a building or something, those buildings are going to soak up that electricity and transmit it straight down that wire underground, through the wire underground, and up to wherever its source is. the bottom line is the electrical system in this world is not built for this world. Now, I'm going to say something that might sound crazy to some of you, but those of you who are engineers will probably just laugh. I have never in my life since 12 thought that the Great Pyramid of Giza was a tomb, because it's clearly not a tomb. There are no hieroglyphics in it. So they talked shit about all their battles. They wrote hieroglyphics on every tomb, but inside the pyramid, there are no hieroglyphics. And the casing stones are gone off the pyramid. And everybody said, well, it's because people just used the casing stones and stripped the pyramid and built mosques and temples and whatnot out of those casing stones. Now, the reason I think that's funny is because if you've ever stood at the base of the pyramid and looked up the 50 stories tall that it is, it's at a 51-degree angle. It's very steep. Those casing stones weighed literally tons. So if you're saying that Ahmad went up 460 feet and pried loose one of those casing stones and then carried it down the pyramid, no, that's completely bullshit. What I do believe happened is they built some kind of power system out of that thing, and they used the fact that there was an aquifer running through limestone, which any idiot knows water running through limestone generates what? An electrical charge. And they built a pyramid right on top of it. And they built it out of stone that conducts electricity, except for the outer casing stones, which were built out of something that does not conduct electricity. Well, why would you do that? Because if you're conducting electricity and you've got something that insulates it, it all gets focused to the top. Well, what's at the top? We don't fucking know. There is no top anymore. Well, but there was a top. Yeah, there was. What was it? Don't know. Well, but all those people that write about it, they wrote that it was iron. Oh, was it? And where is it? Well, nobody knows. So, but we know it was iron. Yeah. Even though there was no iron back then, except for meteorites. So how do we know that it was iron? Why are we sure that it was not copper or bronze or some other metal? Well, we don't really know what it was. We just know that there was a casing stone. We know there was a casing stone. Well, yeah, somebody wrote that down. Did they write it down at the time? No. They wrote down some conjecture a few hundred years ago. That's it. So we don't know what the hell it was, but I do know this. If you look at the way that it's designed, it's a power plant. It's designed to create electricity. What they used it for, I don't know. Maybe it was some grand scheme so that they could eat refried beans and stand on top of the pyramid and light their farts. That's probably not what it was. But my point is, nobody knows what they did with the electricity that they could have generated with this enormous thing. But I do know this. If you got a massive power surge, like a huge solar flare, coronal mass ejection, it could have easily overloaded that pyramid and blown all of those casing stones off. And that's exactly what it looks like to me. It looks like somehow it got overloaded and they blew the casing stones off the sides of that thing and it quit working. Well, it's interesting because just about the time they talk about that pyramid and its usage, or its, they say when it was built, but they don't have any records of when it was built. There isn't a single word written down in ancient Egyptian talking about when it was built. So I would not say anti-gravity, just because if I did, they'd probably put me on some kind of medication. I mean, anything's possible though. That's the key. It's anything's possible. It could have been all of them at the same time. A massive solar flare that is capable of literally lighting all of the electrical wires running all over North America and all over Europe on fire. Literally, guys would unplug the batteries. And remember, you could charge a battery by cranking and cranking, and you charge up the battery, and then you make the contact, and it sends a little, and that's how you got back and forth with Morse code. This little just making contact. Well, you had to charge the battery up first, and you hand cranked it, and you literally cranked a dynamo that cranked up electricity, put it into a little storage device. Well, when these guys saw that their machines were heating up, they reached down and unplugged the electrical system. They unplugged the battery because they didn't want the battery to get overloaded and explode, because batteries back then were very expensive. It was like super high tech. So the problem was they would unplug these and they would keep receiving. And as they were receiving with no electrical device attached to it, some of them received the whatever they had incoming as far as a telegram, telegraph. They actually received them until sparks started flying out of their machine, and the telegraph office actually caught on fire, and there were dozens of fires. Yes, the pyramids are aligned with Orion's belt, which is a whole other crazy coincidence, if you believe in that sort of thing. By the way, I found something that I didn't know that I had. I found a couple of these bad boys. Yep, there's a reason that it's that color, because it's a steely, and it is a nice one. Now, I don't have any steel pennies that I would say are worth thousands. I actually did have a couple that I thought were worth a couple $1,000 a piece, but I traded them. Pretty cool, right? I like these. I like steel pennies. I've got now here's one that I have to do a little research on, because you can't see it in there, but I'm pretty sure it's just the one. Yeah, this one's got a strange date on it. This is a steel penny, but it says 1955. 1955? Yep, 1955. Well, that's weird. One of two things is true. Either somebody just thought they'd have a hoot and make a 1955, or I have the rarest penny ever. But yeah, my guess is it's plated. Somebody thought it would be fun to plate a 1955. Although I gotta admit, it's really, really well done. If it's plated, it's really strange, because the key to stuff like that is when you look at a penny, which, son of a bitch, this is really hard to, okay, there we go. All right, now, when you look at, there we go, I got it, boom, there. When you look at the wheat shafts on a penny, there are lines in between the wheat. And if you can see those lines, there we go. If you can see the lines in between the wheat, that is usually a very, very good sign. That means that you have something that's in very good condition. If you can see the hair on Lincoln's head. Oh, and by the way, just a little aside, because People have asked me, I've got one of them here. It might be this bad boy. Nah, it's too bad. What year is this? This is not rare. Anyway, it's old, but it's not rare. Anyway, it might be. I found some pennies in a box I didn't know I had, and so yeah, there we go. Okay, so on the back of this penny, oops, wait there. Come on now, help me out, God. What's this? This is a VDB. Now, it's a 1909 VDB. You put Victor David Brenner, VDB, on the back of the penny in fairly large letters. And so you can see it with your naked eye. Well, what the mint did next in order to punish him is they put VDB, and this is on all Lincoln pennies, including the new ones. So if you've got a penny laying around and you have a magnifying glass, grab it and you'll see this. As a punishment for putting his letters so big across the bottom, they put his letters back on the front. Now, you're thinking, wait a minute, there are no letters on the front. Well, if you look at Lincoln's shoulder, the back of Lincoln's bust, and you look underneath his shoulder with a powerful magnifying glass, you'll see in the tiniest possible letters, VDB. It's almost impossible to see with the naked eye. Do I have any W quarters? I don't know what W quarters are. Don't really collect a lot of new stuff. I mean, pennies, yeah, because I just, I ended up buying hundreds of thousands of pennies because I had to fill out a collection for somebody who wanted a complete penny collection, which I did not realize at the time would cost $10 million. But it can easily cost you $10 million. More if you want absolutely the best pennies. 1946 nickel. It's probably good. If it was an S mint, it would be worth a little bit more in decent condition. But believe it or not, the VDB penny that was from Philadelphia in MS 68 or 69 condition now is worth a huge amount of money. And the reason is actually pretty funny. There were 484,000 of the 1909 S VDB pennies made before the mint director found out that he put VDB on the back in big letters and said, stop fucking making, stop right now. Don't make any more of those. And so they stopped making the ones that said VDB. They changed the dies and they started stamping them with VDB underneath the bust in tiny, tiny, tiny letters. However, nobody told the mint director that in Philadelphia, he'd also done the same thing. And the Philadelphia Mint was making VDB pennies, big letter VDB on the back. But nobody stopped them from making it. So they weren't rare. They made something like 1.2 billion of them. Well, because they weren't rare, nobody collected them. And because nobody collected them, they all got beat up. And because they got beat up in shitty condition, they're worth nothing. There's still millions of them out there. But in really, really good condition, they're extremely rare because nobody wanted them. Nobody collected them. Yeah, I mean, you never know, man. You never know. There's always a chance out there that you're going to find, and the thing is, if you find a penny that looks like this, that's this red and is in this kind of beautiful condition, and it's from anywhere in the teens, it's worth hundreds of dollars. I mean, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. I believe, what is it, a 24D? I think that was a bitch to find. You have to understand there are between 2 and 3 mints, and 49 years. So there's 150 different wheat pennies out there. And if you collect after 58 all the way up until, let's say, 82 when they stop making them, then well, you know what, dude, bro, it's a start. It's a start. So when you find something that's in this good a condition, that's really, really old, chances are it's probably worth some money. Now, this one obviously is what we would call cherry because of the color. If you got one that's cherry red like this, well, actually, all right, let's be okay. Here you go. This one is really, really red. Like that's the condition it was in when it was made. And no, I shouldn't be touching it with my fingers, but I just found a box full of these. So let's see here. Yeah, 1951D. Is it worth money? It's worth a couple bucks, a couple dollars. What's this other one I showed you? 1957D. Maybe $1. They made a lot of these, a lot of 57Ds. Now, let's take a look at this one. I haven't even really looked through these. I was unpacking boxes because I just moved 7 months ago. So I'm unpacking now. Oh, shit. Okay, this is how rare it is. There's another 1957D. And that gives you an idea of how rare these are. I mean, look at that. This thing is absolutely perfect. Now, if you found one of these and it didn't have a single scratch on it, like some of the ones I had in my collection that I parted with. Oh. If you wait, is that right side up? There we go. Okay. If you had some of these, come on, damn it. It's so shiny it won't stop shining. There we go, a little bit better. So yeah, if you had these and they were in perfect condition, 65s through 68 condition, now you're starting to talk about some serious money. And this one looks like it's in perfect condition. However, if I look at it through a loop, it's in good condition. It's got a couple little spots on it, but as far as wear, oh shit. Okay. Oh. Wait a minute. I don't even see a VDB on here. Underneath. Wow. Okay, we got a little schmutz on the back. A little bit of shit stuck, but it's no scratches, but just a little bit of stuff stuck on there. And can you clean a coin? No, technically you cannot. Lincolns are so boring, unless of course you're making a shitload of money on them. If you make money on them, if you are willing to sit through the boring part, you have a 1909S VDB. You left out something very, very important there, El Rayo. Because if you've got a 1909S and it's not a VDB, it doesn't count. Wow. Yeah, this one's really, really clean. Damn, these are nice. Now, they're not perfect because they're dirty, which, theoretically, dirt shouldn't matter as much, but it does. Yeah, there are coins out there, and I had some of them that are absolutely flawless. I mean, they're just perfect coins. These are not them. These are very nice. They're very clean, and they're obviously very bright. They're very red, very cherry. But, they're worth a few bucks a piece. I mean, altogether, if you've got 20,000 of them, yeah, you got enough to go buy yourself a old car or something fun. But this one looks like it's really old. It's funny because you get to a point with pennies where you can actually tell which ones are like from pre-war. It's a different color copper. Yeah, this one's a 46S. And it is beat up. Let's see. Chip die penny. Missing chip makes it look like there's a blob of copper over the D. Yes, those are actually not as rare as I hoped, because I've got a couple of them too, and I really, really wished that they weren't common. The date. Oh, on that one, I don't even know. That was 46. That one was a 46. I've got a few in here that are actually really, really old, and they're kind of fun because they're so damn old that even though they're not in great condition, you know, it's kind of a history thing too. Yeah. Well, son of a bitch. Just picked one up off the desk, and it's a 1909 VDB. It's not an S. But this is the way most of the 1909 Philadelphia mint VDBs look. They look beat up like this, and they're very, very worn, and you can barely see that it says VDB on the back. It's really hard to read. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, like, what's this worth? You know, it's 3.2 grams of copper. Well, 90% copper. So yeah, it's worth something, but it's probably not a ton of money. Oh, all right. 1923. See? And that's the way a lot of these pennies from the 20s look. It's cool to have, but you know, they're not exactly worth a fortune. Now, in really good condition, yeah, they're worth a fortune. So, anyway, obviously, I would say that if you're looking for copper, not necessarily pennies, but if you're looking for copper, I am now going to be able to provide that cheaper than anybody else. And I'm working on some other sources for it as well. But for now, the coins are going to be really cool. They're really nice. They're basically like everybody else's. Yep. Yeah, there's some very expensive 1909 S's out there. It's, you know, it's one of those coins. There's a few coins out there that have mintages under $1 million, but not a lot. Once a mint decided to mint coins, they minted a lot of them. In some cases, billions of them. So, by the way, if anybody is watching from here in Phoenix, you'll notice that on the news lately, there's been lots of talk about how we're running out of water and our water issues, and Gilbert, the water prices are going up and all this other stuff. You might want to call the governor and just say, look, you lied about what's going on with Bustamante. That Saudi Arabian company is still pumping millions of gallons a day out of our emergency aquifer to grow hay, which they then cut and send to Saudi Arabia. Well, I mean, it's nice that they don't want to waste their own water on dairy cows, but it kind of pisses me off that we're facing a 1,000-year drought or whatever they're calling it, and they're telling us that we're about to run out of water, and yet there's Saudi Arabia sucking up our water resources. It makes me wonder how many other countries are fucking us over and stealing our resources just in Arizona. I'm sure it's a lot, but clearly I'd like to see, if you've got your own stories, believe me, hit me with them. Put them in the comments. I would love to know what we're talking about as far as like all the different countries that come over here and steal our natural resources and don't pay us for them. Tapper? Oh, you're an idiot. Really. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. I want you to stop drinking Benadryl for breakfast. It's bad for you. And I want you to think about what you just said. Yes, they're sucking water out of Arizona, raising a crop which they then take to the desert in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. And that water gets transmuted back to the Butler Valley of Arizona. How? You don't vote, do you? I mean, it's your birthright. But I'm just saying, for the rest of us, could you just not for a while? Take a few years off, a couple cycles. Let us try to figure some shit out before you jump back into the gene pool. Because that's not going to work. Well, we got lots of resources, but in the Southwest, water ain't one of them right now. That's a fact. We've got a lot of resources, tons, but right now, Lake Powell and Lake Mead are about to go completely dry. As I drink my bottled water because I can't drink the water that comes out of the tap because I checked it. And when you check to see what's in the water in Phoenix, Arizona, holy fuck, it's traumatic. It's not like Flint, Michigan, but it is, there's like, hexane and shit like that we know breaks down cell walls and kills people. Votes are severely rigged. That's true. That is true. We're fucked. When it comes to the vote rigging, that's already done. So, but hey, look, the SAVE Act is going to take care of that. Right? Everything's good. It's going to fix everything. Kind of like the Housing Act. Hazmat background. Yes, in a way. I mean, I did nuclear, biological, and chemical in the Marine Corps, so it was a few courses that they taught us about, basically what to expect and what not to eat or drink. China is not as bad off as you think. Be very curious to find out what sources you're using, because if you're getting that information from anywhere, mostly, it's not right. That's the problem, is that if you really start to dig and you look at things like, is diesel usage down? Yeah, it's fallen off a cliff in the last 2 years. It's been it's like a quarter of what it was. Well, what does that mean? Well, you have to interpret that. Well, what do they use diesels for? Construction and shipping. Oh, so they're not doing any construction? No. So why are they buying so much petroleum? Because they're filling up their petroleum reserve and keeping everything status quo so that people don't realize that, oh shit, they don't really need all this petroleum. That means their economy's shutting down. Now, is it any worse than ours? It was last year substantially worse than ours, but we have a new sheriff in town, and his name is Donald Duck Trump, and he has started a war that we not only can't win, but we can't even afford to fight. Oh. Oh, shit. Lifetime NDAs. That sucks. Oh. Well, the good news is that if you're ever alone when you're fishing or something, you can always talk to yourself. Unlike the guy from the railroad who signed NDAs, so he can't even talk to himself. If he gets a split personality, one of them gets to stay in the dark. Yes, the oil reserves in the salt domes. That's right. Yep. The problem, of course, is that we now show that our strategic petroleum reserve is more than 50% diminished, and we've been lied to. Misinformation. Huh. May cause moderate harm. Wow, look at that. They're not going to recommend my my live stream because of misinformation, even though that is absolutely not misinformation. That's just a fact. And are we running out of oil? Well, you know, it's a funny thing. I'm glad you asked, because do you mean oil or do you mean petroleum? Because we're a net exporter of petroleum, right? Isn't that what everybody hears all the time? Is the United States a net exporter of petroleum? Yes, the United States is a net exporter of total petroleum. Uh-huh. What does that mean? What does that mean? Oh, it means crude oil and refined products combined. Well, now, okay, hold on for a second. Back the flock up. Is this more propaganda? Okay. Is the United States a net exporter of just crude oil? No. No, we're fucking not. Oh, well, son of a mother. You gotta just love this shit. So, when did the United States change the name of crude oil to just petroleum products? Let's see. The U.S. Department of Energy says that, oh no, they've always called it oil. But remember how we used to talk about petroleum, and petroleum, what we meant oil. Well, now, methane, hexane, butane, propane. Oh, all that. Yeah. So, like hexane, can you burn that in a car? No. Can you burn butane in your car? No. Can you use propane in your car? Yeah, but nobody does because it's not fuel efficient unless you're on the highway a lot. Then it actually becomes pretty efficient. No, they actually just changed it several years ago just because they wanted us to seem energy independent. We're not. How much oil does the United States of America produce every day? Well, now wait a fucking minute. We produce 13.8 million barrels? Huh. Well, that's really interesting. Oh, but if you include all of the other liquid products, then it's 21 million barrels a day. How many barrels of oil a day does the United States of America utilize? 20. See how they did that? Oh, well, we use 20 million barrels. Oh, but we make 21 million barrels of petroleum. Yeah. How much of that is crude oil? Oh, 13 and a half. If the United States of America produces 13.6 million barrels of crude oil a day and uses 20, where do we get the rest? Foreign imports? Huh? Well, that's not what Trump said. That's not what Trump said. Trump didn't say that. Wait, what? Canada, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia? What? Wait, the top suppliers, largest shares comes from Canada, followed by Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and Iraq? What? Wait, but what? What about Venezuela? Well, they only produce total 1 million barrels a day. Total. So, wow, that's pretty interesting. Oh, it's not about how much oil we have. We got lots of oil. It's about whether or not the government of the United States of America is lying to you right now. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that how many barrels of oil does the world use per day for the last 3 years? There's a reason I ask it that way. Oh, wow, holy moly. Jesus. 105 to 106 million barrels a day. No, I did not watch the Miss Lindsay show. I could not watch that. It would make me throw up in my mouth. Venezuela is heavy crude. Buck. You're listening to MSNBC again. We export a lot of the Canadian stuff because it's too light. We import heavier crude. We would use Venezuela's crude, except it's on the open market, just like everybody else's. So when we say, oh, well, we don't have to worry about oil, just because it's under the ground in Texas, that don't make it your oil. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to Texaco or Standard Oil or Gulf or BP. It's not your fucking oil. Brother, you don't own shit. So if the United Kingdom is desperate enough, if Germany or Belgium is desperate enough to pay more for it than we're willing to pay for it, they get that fucking oil until we are willing to pay enough to buy it back. It's a bidding war that is international. So don't think for a second that it's our oil. We don't have oil. Petroleum manufacturers have oil. And by the way, those are multinational corporations. They don't give a fuck about the United States or its citizens. They have zero loyalty to you. So it doesn't matter what your 76 station says or your Chevron station says. They don't give a fuck about you, period. That's exactly right. Before the war, Iran was selling their oil at somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 a barrel, but with a discount. So they were actually only getting 47 bucks a barrel. 47 bucks a barrel. It's pretty cheap oil. It's good shit, man. It's too bad we weren't buying it, because 47 bucks, that translates to somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 per gallon, which would be nice. That would actually get the economy of the United States jump started in a big fucking way. You reduce the price of energy in the United States by that much, and I guarantee you that our economy comes roaring back. You give me $1 per gallon gasoline, you give me $1 per gallon diesel, and I will help you build the strongest economy the world has ever seen in about 18 months. That's just how easy it is. Energy is everything. The economy is energy and environment. If you have the kind of place where you can grow crops, where you can build things, where you have lumber, where you have resources like copper, and you have cheap energy, we would literally be able to double the world's GDP. When I say double the world's, I don't mean by buying more shit from China. We'd be able to be half of the world's GDP by ourselves. But for some reason, the people in Washington don't want that. Now, I can tell you this. I can tell you that when I checked yesterday and I found out that the woman who's running for Congress in Michigan, where Detroit is, where Motor City is, the place that was one of our absolute economic engines, when I found out that she's taken a total of $46 million from Israel, I was blown away. I was shocked. $46 million. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is clearly a traitor, and he's only gotten 14 million from Israel. Wow. Now, I got to tell you, that's amazing. I mean, you want to talk about an expensive piece of politician. That's it. $46 million. There are senators that are all over the country that have gotten $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 from AIPAC and Israeli sources. 100 grand? You may as well just give it away free, man. Just lift your skirt, baby, because you're not getting paid enough. But $46 million, she is bingy. She is really killing it. Like, she is something else. This is a woman that is absolutely amazing. So, what do you do? You know? Oh, what's her name? Let's see. Let me look it up. AIPAC tracker. Track AIPAC. Let's see. God. Nick Begich. Nick, you fucking idiot. Literally $16,000. He got $16,000. Unbelievable. He's a Republican. He's a Republican from Alaska, which means that he's totally bought and paid for by Israel, because every Republican voted to give our country to Israel. Every single one of them. Why would they give her so much? I don't know. I mean, maybe she just played hardball. I mean, look, Lisa Murkowski, she's supposed to be a Republican from Alaska, and she voted to give our national sovereignty away to Israel in the NDAA. She voted to combine our military. Wow. I just got hit for bullying and harassment. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Mark Kelly. Wow. $500,000. You go. Oh, wow. Yazamin Ansari. She got 1.1 million. She got twice as much as Mark Kelly. That's crazy. Wow. Let's see. Greg Stanton. Oh, Andy Biggs. You bent over for nothing. He only got $39,000. That's nothing. The guy next door to him, Juan Ciscamani, he got 1.2 million. Look, man, if you're gonna sell your soul, know what it's worth. Is protocol for AI defense against U.S. citizens. Well, I mean, clearly, Section 219 combines our military with the Israeli Defense Forces. Literally combines the two together. How can that be good for us? Tom Cotton. By the way, he's the one that piled onto that. Tom Cotton said that he put into the Senate Intelligence Authorization Act that once the NDAA goes through and we combine our militaries, he put in his act that the President of the United States did not have the power to take Israel back out of our government unless there was a clear and present danger. The President of the United States has to prove that there's a clear and present danger. Now, the question, of course, is once you've combined all of your intelligence services, like the CIA, the National Reconnaissance Office, the NSA, et cetera, once you've combined those with Mossad, once you've combined all of the militaries together, how do you go about proving that half of our military and half of our intelligence agencies are against us, since all the intelligence you would be getting would be from the Mossad? See the problem there? So Tom Cotton, Trader of the Year. Now, I get it. He's probably got tons of stuff in his closet because he hasn't come out of the closet. Apparently, he's supposed to be married, but ask anybody that lives in Washington and they'll tell you, oh yeah, we see him in the fun clubs, if you know what I mean. Let's go to Michigan and let's find the all-time king of selling out. Michigan. Okay, let's see. Where is this woman? God, Debbie Dingle. Come on. With a name like Dingle, it figures that you only got $29,000 from AIPAC. When Haley Stevens has gotten on here, it shows 30,800,000. Now, that is, of course, part of it. There's actually quite a bit more. There's a lot more, actually. So let's see. We've got, boy, oh boy, it's really hard to find anybody who hasn't taken money. Wow. So Kelly Morrison She hasn't. She's in Minnesota. She hasn't gotten a dime from AIPAC, and she still has a lousy record on Israeli Palestinian stuff. Wow. Okay. The only people I can see that won't take money from AIPAC thus far, you're going to love this, guys. Ilhan Omar. I wonder why. She's the Democrat from Somalia. Rashida Tlaib, the Democrat from Pakistan. They're not voting with AIPAC. They're not voting for Israel, but of course they've got their own agenda, don't they? Does anybody have an agenda like, oh, I don't know, the people who founded the country should actually be able to enjoy it? Apparently not. Well, let's see here. We've got Leah Mahia. Where's she from? New Jersey. She's approved. She will not take money. She has sworn off AIPAC. And then we've got Bonnie Coleman, New Jersey 12. I don't know who that woman is, but good for her. She will not take AIPAC money. She will get primaried to death. Trust me on that. If you don't take AIPAC money, they will absolutely come at you from every possible angle. Ask Thomas Massey. Oh, if the NDAA goes through, there's no undoing it. There is no undoing it. At that point, we watch the slow but inevitable destruction of the United States of America, because it will already be over. At that point, it's just, it's just a name. It's, it's like anything else. You see sometimes that these nameplates mean something, and it's like, oh, Cadillacs make the best cars in the world. Well, I can tell you this, in the 70s and 80s, they sure didn't. In the 60s, yeah, if you bought a Mercedes, you were just a turd. If you bought a Cadillac, that meant you were successful. And by the way, back then, Mercedes and Cadillacs were both the best engineered cars on planet Earth, period. They were absolutely what we would say are superlative. Hey, Velasquez, this woman, New York District 7, won't take money from AIPAC. Oh, boy. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, will not take money from AIPAC. Well, I'll give her credit for that. I will give her credit for that. Look, the bottom line is, you may disagree with somebody's politics overall, but when they do something right, that's it. They do something right. Who's this guy? Don Davis, North Carolina. Don Davis is taking $4 million. Woo! $4 million from AIPAC, baby. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of support from Israel. Kind of makes you wonder. Woof, everybody in North Dakota is bought and paid for. Ohio, yep, they are all bought and paid for. Jim Jordan's only taking $250,000. Gee whiz. How traditional of him. Let's see here. What do we got? Oklahoma. Alan Armstrong won't. Well, it just says he hasn't taken any. I don't know if he will, but he hasn't. Frank Lucas. Yeah. He's taken 11,000. That's not a lot, but it's still apparently enough to buy his soul. Oregon, we got Jeff Merkley, who's a Democrat. He will not take Israeli money, period. Okay. All right. Well, then, Jeff Merkley. See, here's the thing, guys. You got to pick your fight. You got to pick your fight. Transgender. What to call people who dress up like zebras and want to be called donkeys? That's 1% of the population. I don't give a fuck. You can't create enough static to distract me. That's noise. That's just noise. So when they blow the dog whistle and they say that gays are going to take over America and they're going to make your son gay. Really? You don't think you have anything to do with that? Nothing? So here's what I say. Ask yourself, why Israel buying American politicians? Same reason that they're buying up literally hundreds of thousands of acres of Argentina. The exact same reason. Why are they destroying and absolutely obliterating, and I'm using that word correctly, not like Trump, why are they obliterating Christian villages in the West Bank and in Lebanon? Because there's no room for anyone outside of Judaism in the Greater Israel Project. They'll use us as their golem. They'll use us to go and attack their enemies, like they're doing in Iran. They literally just said last week, their defense secretary said, nope, we have no interest in getting involved in Iran. You don't have any interest in getting involved. You started it. Yeah, but, you guys are tough. You'll finish it. It's like, yeah, well, we could, but why would we? Let's see. What state is this? Pennsylvania. Summer Lee won't take any money from AIPAC. There's a lot of Democrats here that are saying they won't take AIPAC money. Everybody else is taking AIPAC money. You got to ask yourself, why are the Republicans so damn bought and paid for? What's going on here? Like Ted Cruz. Oh, God, he is so far up AIPAC's ass, he could probably see out of their belly button. John Cornyn, same thing. God, Texans are so full of shit. I mean, it's just so full of it. It's like, what the hell, man? You guys are we're so independent. We're so independent. You're not independent. You're full of shit. You all take money from AIPAC. Everybody in Texas. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. You guys aren't going to like this. I don't like it. Christian Menefee has not taken a dime. Oh, he's newly elected. But they say that Track AIPAC is monitoring him to see. Wow. I don't see anybody in Texas. My God, literally, it's like, what is going on? Jasmine Crockett, how about Governor Abbott? Oh, I don't care about him. He's a governor. I could care less. He's not voting on whether or not to combine our government with theirs. Jasmine Crockett, who, by the way, talks like she's from the south side of Chicago or one of the worst parts of Detroit. And she's got this, I be in the street with UB people. She was on the debate team in the university that she went to. She is very well-spoken. She puts on that act, that show for her constituents so that they think that she's like them. Man, talk about blackface. That's what blackface really means. She's literally pretending to be uneducated and from the streets in order to help them. How much did Ted Cruz take? $1,400,000. And he said that he went to Congress, Senate, with the express reason of helping Israel. He literally said that on the Tucker Carlson interview. He said that's why he wanted to go and become a senator. His number one concern was the safety of Israel. What? Your last name's Cruz. Your last name's Cruz and you're from Texas. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, right now we're talking about Ted Cruz. Theodore Cruz, probably one of the worst representatives in the Senate. Although at this point, John Cornyn, he took $1 million from AIPAC. And then, you get these people who pretend to be so holy and more righteous. And it's like, okay, so let's see. Some of these guys don't take a lot. That's amazing. I mean, you got people that get like this guy, Henry Cuellar. He's gotten $2.39 million. Okay, so he's a Texas 28 Democrat, and he's taken basically $2.4 million. And then you got Chip Roy, who's a Texas 21, District 21 Republican, who's taken $17,000. You got Jasmine Crockett, who hasn't taken a dime. On the other hand, she doesn't need to because she's still got a shitty record. She's got a very poor record when it comes to voting for Israel and Palestinians. Yeah, they are completely bought and paid for. Now, this guy, Greg Casar, he's Texas 35th, and he's a Democrat, and he's approved. He's Track AIPAC approved. He has promised never to take money from AIPAC. Okay, gotta love it. Utah, that doesn't cost them much. And the reason it doesn't cost them much, just to be clear, is because Mormons actually believe that the Jews are some kind of super special group and they should basically do the same thing that they do for everybody else. They mow your lawn, cut your hair for you, get your paper in the morning, whatever. Like whatever you say, that's what the Mormons want to do for Israel, because something in their book says, who the fuck knows? I don't even know, but I think it's sad. Whoa, Vermont, what the hell is going on? Woo! They got 2 senators and one congresswoman, and they're all Track AIPAC approved. None of them will take money from AIPAC. Now, I know Bernie Sanders won't, because he's Jewish and he is extremely against Israel, vehemently against them. How's that? Like, how can you be Jewish and not like Israel? Well, it's actually really simple. He has a soul. Let's see. Peter Welsh, Democrat. Becca Balint, Democrat. Okay. Well, I can't help but notice that the only people who are not for Israel are Democrats. Guys, you're going to have to do some thinking. So am I, because the reality is who you swap spit with in your bedroom is none of my concern. Okay. Now, I know that there are certain rules, if you're Christian, they have to be over 18. If you're Jewish or Muslim, they can be over the age of 3. But not in the United States, by the way, just so we're clear. In the United States, that's illegal. But in their religions, a girl over the age of 3 is perfectly legal. So there's that. However, beyond that, who you want to fool around with in your spare time is not my concern. Paulina, it's totally true. I'm not joking. You did you not know that? Most of my listeners know that by now because I've quoted the Quran and the Torah and the Talmud to them. The Talmud and yeah, it's I may be Catholic, but I read the Quran. Then you know that in order to have a wife that you consummate your marriage with, she can be of any age as long as she shows what they call precocious puberty. So 6, 7, 8. You also know that the Prophet Muhammad married Aisha when she was 8 years old, but he didn't consummate their marriage until she was 11. And he bragged about that. Got it. So you have to understand that the reason that I am so down on a couple of these religions is because when you actually read these things, here, let's see. Yeah, when that's bullshit. No, it's not. I'm telling you right now. You can Google this. I'll Google it for you. What is the earliest age that a man can consummate his marriage with a woman under Sharia law? There is no fixed numerical minimum age for consummating a marriage. Oh, well, as soon as there is a bodily capacity to safely endure sexual intercourse. Well, some traditional schools reference the age of 9. The Talmud says, no, the Talmud is Jewish, and it says 3 years and 1 day. There is no Sharia law. It's to follow the law of the land. Do you actually believe that? You don't believe that. So you don't believe in female genital mutilation either, do you? You don't know that there have been people sentenced to jail for doing it in Michigan. Dearborn, specifically, the capital of Islam in the United States. There is no Sharia law. That is absolutely amazing that you would say something that stupid. How many places practice Sharia law? Around half of the world's Muslim majority countries, about 25 to 30. Paulina, really? That was in Africa. No, it's not in Africa. What the fuck, Paulina? What are you reading? Where are you getting these really skewed numbers? Look, hon, I'm not trying to bullshit you. I'm just telling you the truth. Look, I just Googled it. I just asked Google, and it says, as far as Sharia law, you said there's no Sharia law. Around half of the world's Muslim majority countries, about 25 to 30 nations, include Sharia law. Honey, Paulina, wake up. You're playing for the wrong team here. Okay? I don't have an agenda. I don't hate somebody because of where they were born. But if that's your attitude is, hey, the idea that you got to cut a woman's genitals off so that they can't enjoy sex because they are fundamentally flawed and not human, I have a problem with that. I have 4 daughters. I thought Sharia law meant to follow the law of the land. No. Sharia law is Sharia law. That's it. That's why all of these closed places, like the city that they were trying to build in Texas, where it was going to be only Muslims, they just wanted to buy a few thousand acres and build just a Muslim, because inside of that Muslim community, they have their own courts. Yeah, it's going on in the United States right now. Now, if you think that's bad, in Judaism, they have their own legal system, and that's going on in the United States, in New Jersey. And the first guy to actually do a documentary about it just barely grazed the surface of the fact that, hey, look, it seems like nobody here works. They're all on like welfare, and they all have, 12, 13, 14 kids, and they have their own like police and their own everything. What's going on here? Boom, he was defunded. He was one of the biggest documentary makers on YouTube. He had his Patreon shut down. He had his YouTube channel shut down. He had his Instagram shut down. Everything just boom, gone instantly. Well, here's the thing, Paulina, you got to understand something. When you say Abrahamic law, if I could read to you the amount of things that Christ said about the Jewish power structure when he was alive, before the Jews had him killed, it would be as long as my arm. Synagogue of Satan, a den of vipers, all of these things. That's what he was saying about the Jewish rabbis and how badly they had fucked up. That's what they're saying. He was saying that, look, you guys are way off track. You got it completely wrong. The reason that we have these issues is because over and over and over again, you forget about what God wants and you stick to the law. Law, 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 law. Okay, but what about love? Well, there's no love. In the Old Testament, there's no love. There's law. Law, law, law. Break the law, and God will absolutely destroy you and your children and their children for generations. What? That's our creator? That's bullshit. And that's basically what he said, was, look, you guys got this all wrong. God is not what you're calling him. You're leading people astray. Now, what happened when he said that? A group of people started following him because they realized, yeah, you know what? This Judaism stuff is fucked up. This is gross. This is just a bunch of blasphemous bullshit. God's not some hateful little idolatrous piece of crap that says, don't you ever worship gods over me. What? Why would you say that if you're actually God? If you're God, you're God. Well, don't worship any other gods. Otherwise, I'm going to get jealous and pee myself. What? Like, that doesn't make sense. Christians forgot how to be soldiers. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Is that you have a religion of peace, Christianity, and a religion of love. And then Judaism is a religion of law and retribution and anger and hatred and jealousy, because everybody who's a Christian is hated by Judaism. Now, not all Jews hate Christians. A lot of Jews don't even, like what? They go to synagogue once in a while. Maybe they had the bar mitzvah and that was the last time they thought really about it. Do they speak Hebrew? No, not really. And those people are just normal humans. The ultra-Orthodox Jews hate, with the strongest passion you can imagine, hate Jesus Christ and all of his followers. This is the country that we're voting to become a part of. When people say, oh, this NDAA thing where we're going to combine our government with Israel's government, That's okay. It's fine. What's the big deal? The government that's in charge of Israel right now is not a normal Jewish government. It's a bunch of people held together by this one linchpin, and that one linchpin is the ultra Orthodox Hasidic Jews, the ones who won't serve in the IDF and won't defend their nation, but they also won't cut the hair on their temples because Leviticus says you'll be murdered for that. They don't wear colorful clothes. They only wear black. It's just, they are the most radical Jews on earth. And they're the ones who control that government right now. Now, are they a big percentage of it? No. That's the interesting part. They're a tiny percentage of it. There is no combining of two countries. Chester, you obviously have no idea what's going on right now behind the scenes, do you? Like, you don't realize what the NDAA Section 219 says, do you? Charlie, I don't give a shit about Seven Seals. I don't care about any of that bullshit. It's all bullshit. All of that to me is bullshit. Everything that's been written down since then about, oh, this and the that, and you got to go through this thing and that gateway and this fucking, look. Jesus came and said, this is what you need to do. It's real simple. Really simple. And he laid it out, and then that was that. Okay. Well, let's get it done. Well, literally the minute he left. Yes, Section 219 is unconstitutional. It is treasonous, and it is part of the NDAA. Now, that is not the only part, though, because the Senate Intelligence Committee Authorization Act of 2027 takes it a step farther and says once that NDAA is signed and Section 219 becomes law, then the President of the United States of America does not have the authority to break that treaty unless and until he can prove that Israel is, and I quote, a clear and present danger to the United States. What? That's completely impossible. Like, how, if they are part of our intelligence, how could we prove that they're a clear and present danger? You can't. Well, apparently every single Republican in the Congress and almost every single Republican in the Senate believe that they are not a threat, that they are America's greatest ally. Now, let me check something. How much money does AIPAC give to all of our politicians in the United States per year? Okay. So it looks like they're spending about $127 million on federal elections. It's just federal. They do play in state elections as well, and local elections even. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the funny part. We give Israel $3.3 billion per year, and then Israel gives our politicians $127 million per year in return. It's a pretty good investment, really. We give them 3.3 billion, and then they break off a tiny little piece, less than 10%, about 5%, and they use that probably same exact money, our tax money that we send over there. They turn around and use your tax money and my tax money to bribe our politicians to vote against us. Boy, I got to tell you, did anybody ever accuse the Israelis of being stupid? No, I don't think anybody has. I don't think anybody has. And you know what? I appreciate that. They've only got one small problem: ego. Their ego. They will not stop. They will not stop. Who owns data centers? So are Muslims still your enemy? Of course they are. Anybody who says that I don't have a right to exist, no. Nope. You don't get to be in my country. No. Tell me to my face that you want me dead and see how that turns out for you, because I have the exact wording that I would tell the police when they showed up. Officer, I was in fear for my life. Oh, you were in fear for your life? Yes. They said they wanted me dead, and I was in fear for my life, so I defended myself with the use of deadly force. Is that legal? Sure is. Muslims say that. Where did you hear that? Really? You're not going to give me this whole, oh, please, you got to understand it's a religion of peace. It's a religion of peace. We don't want to hurt anybody. We're Muslims. We're nice folks. Sure you are. You don't have a long history of saying that infidel must be murdered, that the infidel have to be gotten rid of. Eventually, all infidel have to die. That is one thing that you share with Judaism. Judaism says that the best Gentile should still be killed. They don't say murdered. And the reason they don't say murdered is because the Ten Commandments says, thou shalt not commit murder. But the Jews don't believe that Gentiles, Muslims, or Christians are humans. That's what it says. What's the difference? Good question. That's a good question. So in the Talmud, it says that Jews have the soul of human beings, and that all animals are imbued by our Creator with a soul. Wolves have souls, whales have souls, dolphins obviously have souls, but they're a different type of soul. It's a different type of soul. It's a soul, but it's an animal soul. It's not on the same level as a human soul. It also says in the Talmud very clearly that anyone who is not Jewish does not have a human soul. We have a different type of soul. The Jews believe that it is their responsibility to take care of us as their slaves only, but to take care of us until we have served them. Once we've served our purpose, then we are to be exterminated. But I think they believe that God will do that for them. No, I've never even. Oh, I think I've heard of the Turner Diaries, but that was the shit that, like, what's his name, the crazy fucker that blew up the McMurrah building, Timothy McVeigh. I think he said that, or he read those. But yeah, not interested. Not interested in some. Look, there's enough crazy bullshit out there. The last thing I need is to read more of it. When you read the Talmud, I mean, it's just, look, it says very clearly in the Talmud that any Jew who reads the Talmud and translates the Talmud to a Gentile should be killed. Wait, if you translate your holy book so that I can read it, you should be put to death by your own people? Yes. Look, all this whitewashing about how we're all the same. Everybody's the same. All religions are good. Bullshit. That is bullshit. Most religions are bad. They're bad. Most Christians are bad. They don't even know what Christianity is. They're so fucking ignorant. They have no idea what they're doing. They say, well, I'm a Christian. What makes you a Christian? Well, I read the Old Testament. Oh, so you're a Jew? No. Okay, but you understand that Christ came to show us that the Old Testament was all wrong, completely wrong. No, didn't know that. Okay, well, what do you do? Wow, I just got another restriction for bullying and harassment. That is absolutely amazing. I don't even know who I'm bullying and harassing. Well, that's the thing. A lot of the books were changed. So what you have to do is you have to just look at the message. Because, by the way, his whole point was, don't look at the messenger, look at the message. And what did everyone do? They worshiped the messenger. It is literally what he said don't do. No, Enoch doesn't fit any narrative. Enoch is a very strange story. I have read the books of Enoch, all of them. There's some crazy, crazy shit there. Well, that's one of the things, is that the kingdom is within, not a bunch of huge, huge buildings that you go and spend all your money worshiping in, where everybody can see you worshiping. That is to completely miss the point of being Christian. Well, Enoch sat next to God. I think he sat next to some freaking aliens based on the way he describes heaven. A bunch of beings of light moving around, pushing in different colored gemstones that were glowing on the walls. I didn't know that heaven had walls. I didn't know that heaven moved through space, but apparently it did. It came into something you might have missed. We're talking about all kinds of stuff, but mostly we're talking about, losing the sovereignty of the United States to Israel right now. Well, that's a hell of a good place to find God, because I think that's where God speaks the loudest. Who wrote the book of Enoch? Well, apparently it was written about 300 years after the rest of the Old Testament. So it wasn't part of the Old Testament for a long time. Enoch asked for the sun to stop moving. I didn't catch that part. Bob says BS. To what? We don't know. He might be saying that he just got his Bachelor of Science degree. Congratulations, Bob. We're all very happy for you. Samaria. It says Samaritan, but you meant Sumerian tablets. I see. You're talking about the Anunnaki, those from whom heaven came. Yeah. You realize Zachariah Sitchin's is full of shit, right? Don't get me wrong. He's a Russian Jewish guy who was extremely intelligent. He taught himself how to read. Look, if you taught yourself how to read English or Russian, that's pretty good. To teach yourself how to read ancient cuneiform, that's ballsy. And he did. Unfortunately, he also took some big liberties with some of those tablets and what they actually said. And turns out he was totally wrong. But he sold a lot of books. Why do you keep asking the same stupid question, Bob? Why don't you tell me, since clearly you've just talked to God, you just got off the phone with him and you're about to piss your diapers because you're so excited about finding out who wrote the book of Enoch. Because obviously Enoch didn't write it. Because you don't answer. No, it's called the Book of Enoch. And theoretically, Enoch wrote some of it, but I don't think he wrote the part about he walked with God and was no longer. That would be hard to write if you're no longer. And what is Silver doing? It is just bouncing around, up a little, down a little, up a little. Up 0.5% right now, down a little yesterday, up a little tomorrow. It's just doing its thing. It will, at some point, do something decisive. Obviously, to the upside. I don't think I have to tell you that the idea of it going down, the only way that silver goes down is everything gets into a deflationary spiral, which means gasoline's $2 a gallon, milk's $1 a gallon again, eggs are 59 cents for a dozen, things like that. That will never happen again. If you look over the course of the last 50 years, it just keeps going up. Now, every once in a while, you get a price anomaly like back in 80, where it jumps up because everybody is scared shitless for a second, and interest rates go to 20%. But overall, if you just look at the last, say, 20 years, silver's gone up 1,600% in 30 years. What's it going to do over the next 30 years? I'm going to say pretty safely that it'll probably do another 1,000% or so. What's gold done? Gold's done about 40% annually. It hasn't done as well as silver. Silver's done almost 50% annually. Copper's done about 18% annually. They're all doing pretty well. Silver's doing the best because silver is not only real money, but on top of that, it's more affordable for everybody. Not everybody can go out and buy a few ounces of gold, except central banks, which is really strange because central banks are buying up a lot of it, more than at any time since they started keeping track back in the 60s. Well, that's got to mean something, but we'll see. The things that are the most outrageous are the things that seem to come true. People said, there's going to be a central bank digital currency. And I said, come on, that's ridiculous. A central bank digital currency. The people of the United States of America will never go for that. Of course, somebody said that, we were going to try to combine our military with Israel's. Please. That is complete bullshit. Of course, that was only about a month ago that somebody said that. And when I checked, I was absolutely stunned to see that is absolutely true. That's exactly what we are doing. we will not have any sovereignty left. Not only do you have to understand, not only do they want access to the CIA, the NSA, the National Reconnaissance Office, those are the big boys. They're the ones that control all the satellites that can still read your golf ball from outer space, among other things. And at this point, pick up whoever you've been calling on your cell phone. They will have access to all of our flock cameras. They will have access to everything. No fucking way. It's already passed. What are you talking about, Charlie? That's the problem. Everybody was asleep at the wheel. I called my congressman. I called my senator. I called the senator who proposed it. I called everybody and said, "What, you guys can't do this." But apparently I'm the only one. Apparently not it. Nobody else cared enough about the Constitution of the United States of America to pick up a fucking phone and make a phone call. I can't do it by myself, man. You know, isn't it treasonous? Not if the government says it's not treasonous. You know, that's the problem. Who are you? You don't matter. Yeah, and that's the thing is that, you know, I provided all the information. I said, look, it's the National Defense Authorization Act. It's the NDAA. It's voted on every year. This year they put Section 219 in. All you got to do is call your fucking senator and say, look, I cannot believe that you voted for Section 219. Are you out of your fucking mind? Everybody will be screaming about this during your next primary. We are going to primary the shit out of you. Once they get past the primary, they don't care. They always win. You know, Lindsey Graham would still win in North Carolina. His sister will probably win, even though but most she's ever done is work as a fucking librarian. She'll become a U.S. senator because her last name's fucking Graham. Oh, well, let's give her the vote. Why? Well, because there are a lot of absolutely idiotic, undereducated, trusting boomers out there. And until they literally die of old age, we won't have anybody that's grown up in the real United States. We'll just have a bunch of idiots who grew up in the 60s and still think that Walter Cronkite is going to come on and tell them the truth. Nobody tells the truth. The law forbidding propaganda to be used in the United States of America by the United States of America expired under Obama, and he refused to sign the reauthorization. So now half of what you see on the news is propaganda. That's it. It was Section 224, and they changed it to Section 219. I don't know why, they just moved it. He's joking about it now, but if he gets enough feedback that gives him a chance, he'll probably try to run again. Hey, man, if you could make $20 billion every time you were president by doing whatever he's doing behind the scenes, you know, it is so sad that it's hard to even wrap my head around how disappointed I am in myself for believing, for going, oh, you know what? Maybe he's going to come back this time. And after having his ass kicked last time by all the insiders and all the swamp creatures, maybe he's really pissed. At what point is it enough? When people start to starve. That's it. Until then, just buckle up. Just buckle up. You know? Obama in 2028 doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Obama, Biden, Trump, you think these guys actually run the country? They don't run the country. They have nothing to say about how this country runs. Netanyahu came over here and said, look, they're 3 weeks away from a bomb. And the president of the United States said, yeah, we better bomb them first. He's been saying they're 3 weeks away from having a bomb since 1995 that I'm aware of. 1995, I was watching Benjamin Netanyahu going in front of the Congress, a congressional oversight committee, and saying, we need to hit them now. They are weeks, at most months, away from having a nuclear weapon, a working nuclear weapon. That was 1995. He's said it dozens of times since then. They're weeks away. It's a joke now, but it wasn't a joke to the President of the United States. They went down into the Situation Room, which no other foreign leader's ever been in, because it's that secure. But apparently Netanyahu is one of us. So he went down into the Situation Room and told Trump, we got to hit him now. You got to hit him now. Trump asked J.D. Vance, what do you think? And J.D. Vance said, it smells like total bullshit to me. But you're the president, it's your call, and whatever you decide, I'll back you. Oh, all right. Don't cry about Trump making money on the side. If it's true. Oh, yeah, because we don't know if it's true. Yet you don't cry about Pelosi or Biden. Who said that, Bob? Who told you that the idea that Biden and his crime family, or Nancy Pelosi and her private equity fund alcoholic husband don't bother me? Who told you that, Bob? Did I say that, Bob? Did I tell you that Nancy Pelosi should be allowed to do as much insider trading as she wants? Did I tell you that, Bob? Goodbye, Bob. Let's see. How do we get rid of this turd? Block. There we go. Confirm. I'm tired of that. Oh, yeah, you don't care about Pelosi. Who the fuck said that? Who made you king and told you that I don't care about Pelosi? I can't stand that woman. She's everything I hate about the entire system, except all of the pretend Christian Republicans who swear to God they're MAGA, even though they're not Make America Great, they're Make Israel Great, and they're voting against the United States of America with any fucking thing whatsoever. They've kicked 700,000 children off of food stamps in the last 12 months. And yet we can go over and spend hundreds of billions of dollars in Ukraine, and we can spend dozens of billions of dollars in Iran. But we can't feed those 700 children in the United States, 700,000 children in the United States. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? She knows nothing about the Senate. She raised money for like a dog orphanage or something. I have no idea. She's like a dog catcher. She has no business being there whatsoever. It is blatantly just, hey, your last name's the same. We don't have to change the shit that says Graham on it. It can still say Senator Graham. Wow. This is fucking bananas, man. This whole thing is just crazy. So, what can you do? Well, I keep saying the same thing over and over and over. Yeah. The Israelis get everything they want. They get free healthcare, they get free college, they get free everything. We don't get any of that shit. But we still send them money? Come on, guys. We can do better. But again, who wants to do better? Nobody. Nobody wants to do better yet. So they're just going to keep eating fucking, McDonald's for breakfast, watching Dances with the Stars at night, and they're just going to keep ignoring what's going on until they watch their sons and daughters starve. Once their sons and daughters start to suffer, then they're going to get pissed. But until then, the silent majority they're not even the silent majority anymore. They're the ignorant majority. The vast majority of people in the United States have no idea what's going on. So what do? Well, I mean, I can tell you that I've got plenty of food here. I got plenty of stuff, just in case. And it doesn't have to be a complete meltdown of the grid. I mean, what happens when a bag of rice is $25? It's like, okay, well, like, you talking about a 100-pound bag? No, I'm talking about a 5-pound bag, which is now $2.99. What happens when it's $25? What happens when hamburger hits $30 a pound? What happens when gasoline is $6 a gallon nationwide? $12 a gallon in California. Who cares? Fuck them. They want to live in LA? Good for you. Live in LA. My point is, when you can't afford to buy an orange, when you have to decide, like, well, are we going to buy medication or are we going to buy food? And you find out that, well, yeah, of course, it's the 4th time this year you've taken your daughter to the emergency room because you can't afford her medication. And then you find out that we've sent $100 million to some charity over in Israel right after they tore down a Christian village that didn't have a single Muslim living in it. Well, that's when we'll start to do something. Until then, nobody's doing shit. And you know what? I'll give it to the Israelis. They know that. They know that. It's written right into our Constitution. It is written into our Constitution. It's written into the Declaration of Independence that men will suffer under the chains of a broken government for as long as they can. They will, for as long as possible. Yeah, in southern Lebanon, they destroyed the oldest Christian village in the world. It was where Lazarus and Jesus met. And it has been populated by Christians for 2,000 years. And Israel just went in and flattened it last month. It's part of the buffer zone. They need the buffer zone, the buffer between them and all the Gentiles. It makes you wonder. It really does. Yep. What they're really playing on the most, I think, Tom, is the fact that the Western world, whether that's Australia or England or Germany or the United States, we've had it too easy for too many generations in a row. It's been 80 years since World War II. And things like Vietnam, it's a war. Yeah, that was a war. Afghanistan, for a few people, it was a real war. But for the rest of the countries, it was just a headline once in a while. It was just a side note. How many people in the United States actually served in Iraq? A tiny percentage. So it's really something that you just don't really think about. And it certainly doesn't affect how people think in the United States. So over the course of the last several generations, we've just become more and more and more sedate, more apathetic. We've just had it too easy. Yep. Well, the world's not really watching for the midterms. That's the problem. Nobody's watching. Yeah, there you go. Think about this. I will say this. If you're in Dubai right now, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, it's wow. I mean, what an absolute shit show your real estate's going to be. Your dreams of being the world's new Switzerland, the new Geneva, gone. No one will ever want to live in Dubai again. Yep. Yeah, nobody's going to want to be anywhere near the Middle East anymore. Not with Iran showing that it's a lot stronger than we thought. A lot stronger. And that region is a lot weaker than we thought. Everybody there was relying on the fact that the United States had bases there. Oh, we don't have to worry about defending ourselves. We got an American base right here. Oh, well, what happens when that American base turns into the reason you should be afraid? Because it's the target. Oh, well, shit, get rid of it. Yep, that's a good idea. You better get rid of all them damn American bases. But don't worry, you don't have to tell them to leave, because now that they realize that they're sitting literally right next door to the country that they just started a war with, they need to haul ass anyway, because there is no place in the Middle East that's safe from Iran now. And we finally figured that out just in the last 2 weeks. So now we're saying, let's negotiate. And they're saying, no. Iran's saying, no. There's no negotiation. Do what we want. You started this war. Now we're going to tell you what the terms are. All right, well, what are the terms? Well, the terms are, number one, we get nuclear power, period. We get long-range missiles, period. We get the Strait of Hormuz, period. Oh, and the United States gives us the $300 billion they've been holding on to for all these years, and they pay for all the damage they just did to our country. Boom. That's it. So we go boots on the ground, 10-year war, or we do what they just told us to. And there is no option B. There ain't no fucking plan B, folks. That's it. That's plan A or war. And look, man, they don't give a fuck. They don't care. A or B? That's their attitude right now. Literally, that's their attitude. Hey, you killed the equivalent of our Pope. You literally tried to destroy, as far as they see it, you tried to destroy our entire religion. So either you kiss our ass or we're going to war. Yeah, me too, brother. I am glad I'm not part of it. And I told my son, he's 13, I said, look, man, there's not going to be a draft for you. You're not going to be shedding any blood for Israel. They are not paying me enough to sacrifice one of my kids, period. It's just not happening. So what do you do, man? All right, well, I'm going to get out of here. It is 9:30 my time, and I have got to eat today, at least once. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night for sure, though. Let's hope the world's still here tomorrow. I think it will be. All right, guys. I'm glad you hung out with me tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow.